Good evening and welcome to the City of Pasco Council meeting. The council thanks you for being part of our city government. At meetings, the city council takes formal actions on items, holds public hearings, and conducts other business of the city. Given the recent dramatic rise in COVID case rates within the community and due to the size of the council chambers and number of attendees, masks will be required for all attendees in the meeting in person, vaccinated or not. Agenda packets are available at the City of Pasco's website at www.pasco-wa.gov/agenda. And please note that the City Council meetings may be accessed through GoToWebinar. This meeting is also being televised live on Pasco TV, channel 191, on Spectrum Cable in Pasco and Richland, and is streamed on the city's Facebook page, website, and YouTube channel. This and previous council meeting video is available on the city's website. And lastly, the public may submit their comments and or questions by contacting the city manager or city clerk or using the feedback form on the city's website. So with housekeeping issues out of the way, may we all rise for the flag? Or may I do that in order here? Rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Councilmember Alvarado.
Alvarado's excused tonight.
Maloney.
Present.
Milne.
Here.
Roach.
Present.
Serrano.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Barajas.
Present.
And Mayor Martinez.
Present. All right, thank you for that. And next, we got the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the City Council and would be enacted by a roll call vote as one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If further discussion is desired by council members or the public, the item may be removed from the consent agenda to a regular agenda and considered separately. So with that, we have first on the consent agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes, to approve the minutes of the Pasco City Council meeting held on August 2nd, 2021, and special meeting and workshop held on August 9th, 2021. Next, we have bills and communications to approve claims in the total amount of $4,747,563.04. And then to approve bad debt write-off for utility billing, ambulance, cemetery, general accounts, miscellaneous accounts, and municipal court accounts receivable in the total amount of $214,674.37. And of that amount, authorize zero to be turned over for collections. Next on the consent agenda is a resolution amendment number 2 to interlocal agreement with the Port of Pasco for Argent Road project. And that's to approve resolution number 4086, authorizing the city manager to execute amendment number 2 for the interlocal agreement with the Port of Pasco relating to the Argent Road project. Next is to reapprove resolution, to reapprove a resolution, the American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Utility Assistance Program and agreement with Basin Disposal, Inc. And that's to reapprove resolution number 4085, approving an agreement with Basin Disposal, Inc. of Franklin County for the Utility Assistance Program with the American Rescue Plan Act Fund. And item E in the consent agenda is the reappointment to the Tri-City Regional Hotel Motel Commission. That's to confirm the reappointment of Monica Hammerberg from the Hampton Inn and Suites to the Tri-City Regional Hotel Motel Commission for a 2-year term commencing on September 1st, 2021 and ending on August 31st, 2023. So that is the items on the consent agenda. If there's no questions or comments on those, we can entertain a motion by Mayor Pro Tem.
Absolutely, Mayor. Thank you. I move to approve consent agenda as read.
There's been a motion to approve the consent agenda as read. Do I hear a second?
This is Serrano. I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Serrano. So with that, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Serrano.
Yes.
Councilmember Maloney.
Yes.
Councilmember Milne,
Yes.
Councilmember Roach,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barajas,
Yes.
and Mayor Martinez.
Yes, it passes unanimously. Thank you. Next, we go to proclamations and acknowledgements, none listed. And in item number 6, we have visitors other than agenda items. So this item is provided to allow citizens the opportunity to bring items to the attention of the city council or to express an opinion on an issue. Its purpose is not to provide a venue for debate or for the posing of a question with the expectation of an immediate response. Some questions require considerations by council over time and after a deliberative process with input from a number of different sources. Some questions are best directed to staff members who have access to specific information. Citizen comments will normally be limited to 3 minutes, each by the mayor, and those with lengthy messages are invited to summarize their comments and or submit written information for consideration by the council outside of formal meetings. So with that, is there anybody in the audience that would like to bring something that's not on the agenda? Or, on the agenda? Yes, sir. If you want to come up, state your name.
Steve Simmons. I'm a resident of Pasco.
Okay, I had you here as on the computer, but
Yeah.
great, you're here, so
Yeah, I am
welcome.
here. Oh, yeah. I just did that just in case I didn't know.
Okay,
We got a lot of kids, and so it's a busy night.
okay.
So I didn't know if I was going to get up or not. I don't really have a lot to say, so I won't take a lot of time. One thing I want to impress upon the city council. I watched the Benton Franklin Health Department meeting last week, their press conference, and the one thing I just want to impress upon the city that I feel very strongly internally is that throughout these ups and downs that we see in COVID and with everything going on, the ways in which we deal with that, I just want to impress upon the city council to strongly focus also on honoring personal freedom. I'm not opposed, to masks. I'm personally vaccinated, so I don't really feel that I need to wear these. I personally feel like that I'm not in any harm from not wearing them, but I understand that it should be a personal choice, and so should being vaccinated. And so I just want to press upon the city council to, when it comes to these types of decisions or anything that needs to be presented before the public, that we also focus on, make sure that we are aware of people's personal freedom and ability to decide for themselves what's best, especially now with a lot of things going on, that it seems that sometimes that freedom is being taken away. So that's all I had. Other than that, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Appreciate your input. And I'm confident that the council, although they're not here, they're watching on, in the team's meeting, that they'll take that into consideration, and appreciate your comment tonight. Anybody else like to bring anything to the council that's not on the agenda item?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Dockstetter, owner of Desert Hills Realty of Pasco. I've been the owner, broker for going on 45 years, and I've seen Pasco go from 8,500 people to 80,000 people over the last 50-some years. And we've got a real problem, and I would like you as city council members to start envisioning what our town's going to look like with another 50,000 people. My personal residence is 7 miles north of town, and people are driving out Road 68, crossing my road and the railroad tracks, and going back down to the food processing center to work, because they don't even want to fight the freeway, let alone getting on the freeway. And we need to come up with an east-west loop road. You need to hook up with West Richland, Benton County, Kennewick, whatever it takes. Intercouncil government's got a transportation group, and start looking at other alternatives for moving people besides the bus system or bicycles, which isn't gonna happen in this town or this state, this side of the state. And I think you need to get a vision to look out another 20 years and start doing something about it now. You may be too early, but it's better to be too early than late, because look at the mess we've got coming off the freeway now. And the other item I wanted to talk about, I brought it up once a couple of years ago to Rick White. I know we've got the new Dairy Gold plant coming in. We've got a lot of potential subdivision ground coming in, depending on what you guys in the county decide to do with future-wise. We need to look at putting a sewer plant, a newer one, down there on airport property or right out there off the edge, do a long-term lease with them, and then you can funnel all that stuff from the, whatever they're gonna call their new industrial park where Dairy Gold's going. And the other thing that I see for easing the growth of the Tri-Cities is making Clark Road a major crossroads and talking to the port about doing an overpass across the railroad tracks to alleviate a lot of traffic going in to that industrial area. You come out at my house 5 o'clock in the morning and they're starting to go by. And that's just something I wanted to bring up to the attention of the council members and hope they start looking forward instead of worrying about what we're gonna do today or tomorrow, but let's start worrying about 15, 20 years from now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the council? I mean, excuse me, from the audience would, okay, Mr. Bowman?
I will certainly echo what Mr. Dockstetter had to say about our need for, excuse me, looking long-term at our transportation. I know that the commissioners have begun the beginnings of a conversation about the possibility of doing some stuff with transportation. I've talked with our state representatives in our area about that a little bit, and I know that they've been considering it. And I think it takes a vision to look long-term enough to do things like look at new pathways across the river. That would certainly require working with our neighbors across the river in both the county and the city, and I think it's something that needs to be seriously taken into consideration. We all know that we have issues with traffic as it is now, but to think large enough to fix the problem is going to take work, and it's a heavy lift, and I think we should start now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, and definitely will take it into consideration. All right, next we'll move on in the agenda to verbal reports from council members. Council members, is there anything you'd like to share with in our meeting that was done last week? Well, the only thing that as many of you know, we had a press conference on Friday, and it was kind of something that was put together really quick, and we had some representatives from the hospitals and our Ben Franklin Health District. Doctor was there, and I shared my feelings and sentiments about thinking the things that we needed to do to stay safe in our community. And we might touch a little bit on this a little bit later, but our COVID rates are still rising. They're still on the rise, and perhaps it's a wave. But the bottom line is that we need to do something to take care of our families and do what we think is best for our families to try to protect them from the spread of this virus. And hopefully the measures we're taking in place is something. And that I know everybody's trying, and everybody, we are hoping that we don't have to take a full step back, although it feels like, we're taking a little step back. But if we react now and do the things that could mitigate and and keep this virus from spreading, then that would be the key, because I sure don't want to go back to where we were several months ago. And anyway, we need your help. Everybody needs your help, and if we all do our part and do it the way we feel is best for our families, then we should succeed. And the reason it's so important, and I feel like I'm caught in the middle because I have my opinions, but the reality is that if we don't do something, then it gets to a point where decisions are made for us, and that's where I don't want to go. That's where we're hoping to not get to that point. So that's what I was my message that I was putting out at the press conference, and so I appreciate all the help that we got, and Nikki that helped us get that set up along with John Funfar. So thank you very much for that. So if there's nothing else, I'll give it one more opportunity for a council member if they want to share anything. We'll move right along to next on our.
Mayor?
Oh, yes, Councilmember Roach?
No, sorry, this is Mayor Pro Tem Barajas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Just wanted to share real quick that I did represent you and the city council today at the ribbon cutting for the new Costa Vida restaurant on Burton here in Pasco. So I was happy to represent, and they are very excited, and it's a thriving, growing business, attracting diverse foods and eats into our area, especially that corridor. So again, just wanted to share that little tidbit for today.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Barajas. I appreciate you stepping in. And yes, always, those are one of the fun activities that we get to do and introduce a new business into our community. And I'm sure that Costa Vida is going to be a really good place to go try out. And thank you for stepping in.
Mayor Martinez, this is Councilmember Roach.
Yes, Councilmember Roach, go ahead.
I'm glad that Mayor Pro Tem Barajas brought that up because it feels like last Friday was ages ago, but I was also got to participate in my first ribbon cutting for Merit Resource Services. It is a substance abuse counseling in Pasco off of 20th. And so I got to go there in your stead and really enjoyed meeting with their executive director, their board, and their staff as well.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad you brought that up, Councilmember Roach, because for stepping in and doing that, and I'm glad that you were able to represent the council and the city of Pasco with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next we'll go to item number 8, hearings and council actions on ordinances and resolutions relating thereto. And tonight, the first one is a public hearing and ordinance, the Cox Family Land LLC annexation. Director Rick White, would you like to kick us off with that?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. And just very briefly, Council set the annexation hearing for this item some time ago to tonight's council meeting. This site is the site of the research plant expansion, something that hasn't been getting a lot of airplay, but they're right in the thick of permitting for this site. However, we have been unable to secure the petition, the signature on the annexation petition from the property owner. We've enlisted the help of the broker involved in the Port of Pasco, which is kind of shepherding this process. And we ask council for a slight delay in the public hearing so we can bring that back fully corresponding to applicable state law.
Thank you, Director White. So yes, this is just to, let me get to the right one here. So this is to continue the scheduled public hearing on the proposed annexation. So does council have any questions or comments they'd like to ask? If not, then I would entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
Excuse me, yes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, so there was some confusion last time. I think what we really need to do is we need to open the hearing and then move to continue it that way.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I think I told you the opposite way last time, so.
Okay, all right. So thank you for that clarification and the correction there. So at this point, we will need to open the hearing. For to continue and we'll just open the hearing first. So let's see here. And is this an opportunity where the public would like to comment on anything?
You could allow testimony to begin, but you certainly don't have to at this point, as long as you open the hearing, and if somebody wants to make a motion to continue it at that point, I think you're fine.
Okay, so then we'll open the hearing. And is there anybody from the audience or anybody who would like to comment on this issue? All right, if not, then we can entertain the motion now.
That's correct.
Okay. I move to continue the scheduled public hearing on the proposed annexation to the next regular city council meeting scheduled for September 7, 2021.
So there's a motion to continue the scheduled public hearing on the proposed annexation to the next regular city council meeting scheduled for September 7, 2001. Do I hear a second?
This is Councilman Milne. I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Milne. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. It passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we move to ordinances and resolutions not relating to hearings. And the first one would be the Broadmoor, an ordinance for Broadmoor Properties LLC rezone RT to C1. Director Rick White.
Thank you again, Mr. Mayor and Council. And this rezone request was considered by the hearing examiner in July, who held a public hearing on July 14th and has forwarded a recommendation of approval to City Council. It's actually just for the north 600 feet of the site that's indicated on the vicinity map. It's a small strip of land. It's the site of two almost identical 25-acre parcels, and the rezone would allow a large retail wholesale project to proceed uninterrupted. And again, the hearing examiner has forwarded a recommendation of approval to council.
All right, thank you, Director White. So again, I'm going to go ahead and ask a question, Mr. Ferguson. At this point, with this hearing, there's not one that needs to be open at this time.
That's correct.
Okay. But there would be an opportunity for the audience or anybody from the public to comment on this issue, and I would open up the opportunity for that. Okay, any comment from the council?
This is Councilmember Maloney. I have a comment.
Yes, Mr.
Question.
Councilmember Maloney, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martinez. So the question I have is, I noted that one of the items that the hearing examiner mentioned was that it is zoned for a specific type of zone that's not yet defined in our code. And I wanted to understand, I don't oppose this rezone by any stretch. I just want to understand what the timing of that looks like, and what differences would you expect to have in a rezone like this? What uses would be permitted here that wouldn't be, or would not be permitted? What would be the difference between the two?
Mr. Maloney, the existing zoning is residential transition, which is a holding pattern zone, certainly not appropriate for a site that is having a major sewer trunk line installed through it. And then the proposed zone is C1, which is an existing zone in our zoning code hierarchy. So this one is actually in line with the existing zoning designated in our municipal code.
Mr. Whiteman, I'll be more clear. In the agenda report, it specifically talks about a mixed-use regional zoning that is designated in our comp plan. But the hearing examiner noted that's not yet been defined in our city code. But the C1, I understand that we need to, that the RT zoning needs to be changed to a C1 zoning or something akin to that. But I was just trying to understand what the path forward will be for what a regional mixed use or mixed use regional zone. When will that be defined and added to our code?
To our code, no, but it is contained within our comprehensive plan, the newly adopted comprehensive plan. So it won't be defined in our zoning code, but is and properly so located in our comprehensive plan designation for land use categories.
So maybe Mr. White, maybe I'm misunderstanding this a little bit. This is something that the hearing examiner called out repeatedly as something that was, quote unquote, missing from our code. So what we're talking about here is this is just an overall designation for potential zones that would be allowed within that area in the comp plan. Is that the intention?
Yes, it is. So the mixed-use regional will be the appropriate location for a number of different zoning districts, most of them commercial, but also for higher density residential.
Okay, I appreciate the clarification. I was thinking of in terms of, for example, our waterfront district that we've recently added to our code, where we had specific uses allowed, or our downtown code, where we have a very different set of uses that are allowed that are strategic and intended for a particular area. And so I guess I misunderstood the implications of the mixed-use regional designation in the comp plan. So I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Maloney. Anyone else? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Absolutely, Mayor. Give me just a second. Let me go back. I move to adopt ordinance number 4542, rezoning the north 600 feet of lots 4 and 5 of record survey 1932652 from RT to C1 and further authorized publication by summary only.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So there's a motion to adopt ordinance number 4542. Do I hear a second?
Councilmember Maloney, I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Maloney. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously. Thank you. And next on the agenda is an ordinance, the LFRE Fielding Midland Lane Rezone, C1 to R4. Do you want to give us another insight on that, Mr. White?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This rezone request and the following rezone request on your council agenda has been in a queue waiting for a comprehensive plan approval process to conclude. The site is roughly 6.5 acres. It's currently zoned C1. The request to rezone it to R4, high density residential, was received. A hearing was held by the hearing examiner again in July. And the hearing examiner has forwarded a recommendation to City Council. No appeals of the hearing examiner's recommendation have been received, and staff would recommend council's also approval and concurrence with the hearing examiner recommendation and rezone the site from C1 to R4.
Thank you, Director White. So this is, again, another opportunity for anybody from the public if they would like to comment. Or council. Council, any comments from council?
This is Councilman Serrano. Just a couple quick things. One, I did receive a comment from a coworker who sent it to me either via text or we chatted about it. He lives in that area and he just stated generic opposition to this type of high density. And I think simply put, he expressed some of the concerns that I had, which is, and I know this is conditional on future studies such as there would be a traffic impact study in particular, thinking of the way this type of density could really impact that area that in my opinion, not a city planner or designer, seems like throwing up to, 150 plus units in that area, if it was all built out at that 30 maximum, seems like it might not be the safest approach. So I recognize that this approval is conditioned on certain mitigations, which are both to be determined and called out. Can you speak a little bit more to some of those mitigations and how they might drive the actual density, Mr. White?
Well, I'll try. Councilman Serrano, of course, we don't have a design for this site yet, but typically associated with a project of this magnitude, or actually even a much lesser magnitude, one of the things you just mentioned, a traffic impact analysis, is part of our standard city development procedures that will be required for this. There's a certain amount of open space that's required for any multifamily district. And it's not very often that a parcel can be developed in a manner meeting city code to achieve the maximum density. Again, it's a little premature to talk about the design right now because we haven't seen one, nor has one been submitted. But I believe there are mitigation measures already in place with this project or any project that would allow at least a traffic analysis to proceed, and then any kind of specific mitigations that might be required through the State Environmental Policy Act opportunities.
Okay, I appreciate that. I think, again, you just more kind of generically expressed concern. Obviously, if it's built out to a larger scale, it'll additionally impact the schools he had mentioned, which hopefully, knock on wood, will be open this upcoming year. So, yeah, I think, again, I'm going to express the same concerns, that we're going to jump all the way up to that type of development, potentially allowing, I understand that we may not allow the maximum, but potentially up to 30 units per acre. That could really drive a tremendous impact on an area that's already impacted and slated for tremendous growth. So quite frankly, I'm not sure where I sit on this, even as of right now. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councilmember Serrano. Any other
This is Councilmember Maloney.
You go ahead, Councilmember Maloney.
And I'm going to ask the attorney to help us out with this. This is labeled as a quasi-judicial matter, and I'm not used to doing quasi-judicial matters anymore. Could you, because now that we've given most of it over to the hearing examiner, and so I want to make sure that, given Councilmember Serrano's comment there, that we're following all the rules of disclosure and such. So I just want to put out there that do we need to do anything different, or did we meet the mark here? I've forgotten how these all work so well.
No, thank you, Councilman Maloney. Yeah, that was my next question was going to be to Mr. Serrano. I appreciate that he's disclosed that he's had what we refer to as ex parte contact. So I guess it is a little clumsy to try to have to go through our little dance that we normally do with quasi-judicial matters. But at this point, I think we probably need to make sure that anybody who's had contact related to this matter, make sure they disclose it, and then decides whether they feel like they can still continue to be impartial, and then leave it open to the public to determine, or open it up to the public to, if they feel like somebody does not feel like they can go forward with that decision impartially, and then the council member would have the final decision.
So I'll disclose that I haven't heard anything specific about this particular rezone, but I have heard in general a number of comments being very concerned about the Sandifer Boulevard traffic, and that the additional growth that we're talking about in this area will be very impactful to traffic. So again, not something specific to this matter or the next matter on the agenda, but in general, that is something I've heard. I'm not sure if that's, I feel like I can continue to be impartial regardless of that input that I've seen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Maloney, for bringing that up.
Do you want to go? Is there anybody else?
This is Councilmember Roach, and I just had a question. I tried to find it through in the findings of fact, but the Mediterranean villas are located north of this site, and I was wanting to know what the zoning is for that development.
Councilwoman Roach, offhand, I don't recall. I know Mediterranean Villas went through a particular zoning exercise called a planned development permit. So it was a bit of a unique application. My guess is they're either zoned R3, the higher of the residential medium densities, or R4, which is high density.
Yeah, it says R3 on print page 1, electronic page 6 for Mediterranean.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Roach.
Mr. Mayor, at this point, yeah, we just need to make sure we go through each council member, if they could disclose whether they've had any contact with either the applicants or anybody related to this matter. They could just go through, Mr. Maloney did disclose that he didn't feel like getting any contact, so if we could just go one council member at a time, that'd be, so that we can comply with the appearance of fairness doctrine, that'd be great.
Okay. So, I don't know if you all heard that, but I'm gonna give the opportunity for each council member to disclose anything that they had with this topic. Is there any other council member that would like to disclose anything? Or do you want to actually hear
That's okay. If anybody other than Mr. Serrano, and then if we could just get speak to Mr. Serrano maybe last.
Okay.
This is Mayor Pro Tem Barajas. No contact in regards to this topic.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anybody else? Mr. Milne, Councilmember Milne?
Yeah, there's no contact in this matter either.
Okay. And we've already heard from Councilmember Maloney and Roach. And so,
Just Mr. Serrano, at this point, he has spoken on the record that he has had contact with somebody who had some feelings in this matter, and so he's expressed that for the record. At this point, it would be up to him to determine or to say whether he feels like he can be impartial. Maybe open it up to the public if somebody in the public feels that at this point, because he's had that contact, that somehow he wouldn't be able to be impartial. So maybe the proper order would be to open it up to the public to say whether they have a problem with anything that he said, and then allow him to make a final decision.
now there was a gentleman from the audience who would like to speak on this topic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not related to Mr. Serrano's comments, but in general.
Okay. Well,
Just if we could finish out with Mr. Serrano, and then I think you could open it up
so
to the
Mr.
public.
Serrano, do you feel like you can still be impartial to this decision?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I obviously expressed my thoughts and sounded like my colleagues were pretty much along the same line as mine. That said, if council or council has concerns about my participation, I will happily, stand by and not vote on this and the following action. Nonetheless, I do believe and am certain I can be impartial.
All right, thank you for that.
I have no concerns.
All right, thank you, Council. Well, so now I will open it up to a gentleman who wants from the public that would like to speak on this topic.
Great, thank you. My name is Cody Fielding. I am the applicant, actually, in this instance. But for this particular rezone and the next proposed rezone. And I guess first off, really excited. And the growth in the city of Pasco is incredible. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Costco, Dairy Gold, Reese's Fine Foods, a local Bounty, 2 big distribution centers in East Pasco. It's amazing. I'm a real estate broker getting into development. This is our first development with my partners and myself. We're very excited. We feel like in the business we've seen firsthand, many people who just can't afford a house. They want a house, and maybe they can afford a house, but they can't find one because they get outbid by 15 other people and whatever else. Very challenging. I do believe that there is a market for higher density. I strongly believe that. And I realize that might ruffle some feathers, and that's fine. We can agree to disagree. But to me, it's a fact that there are people that are struggling. They're living with mom and dad. They're in their 30s and 40s. They can't afford their own place. And so there is a need for this particular product, in our opinion, and we're trying to satisfy that need. To Councilmember Serrano's comments, I appreciate those comments. And we're about 15 units to the acre is what we're anticipating. It is very challenging to get to the full 29 units per acre in R4. Not that that's a bad thing, but it is challenging as we're finding, going through the process. 15 units to the acre is kind of where we're at. This would be about 100 units. It sounds like a lot. It's really not that much. If you kind of count the houses to the north, the Mediterranean villas and some of the other houses, I mean, there's hundreds and thousands of houses over there. And so not to minimize the concern, it is a valid concern, but I think the broader picture sort of illustrates that this is a little bit of a drop in the bucket type scenario. Also, we are planning on submitting a traffic impact analysis. Our engineer is working on that as we speak. And we will be very happy to comply, obviously, with any city requirements, and hope to work with them to make it safe for everybody. Absolutely. My last comment, maybe this could be geared a little bit towards the planning department. Mr. White's been awesome helping us, answering questions and things over the last couple of years. We've been thinking about these projects. We're very excited about it. I do think that there's an opportunity perhaps to maybe partner a little bit with the engineering department and the planning department to see if we can collaborate on sewer and septic. We have received some initial feedback that the city might not allow private sewer and private septic. I'm sorry, private sewer and private water is what I meant to say. And therefore, that would require public easements on private property. And those easements are pretty large, 20 feet and 15 feet, dedicated easements. And that makes it very, very challenging to get any kind of density. And so an R4 would effectively turn into like an R2 or something like that, right? And so I feel like there's an opportunity there to maybe collaborate a little bit more so we can increase the density. To my earlier point, because I do believe there's a housing shortage, and I do believe this product will be very beneficial to those who want to have their own home. They don't care about having a 10-acre property. They want something small. They want something that they can wrap their arms around and they can afford. So I guess I'll leave my comments there and look forward to continuing to work with the city. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Any further comments from council?
This is Councilman Serrano. Mr. White, hate to bang a drum here again, but Councilwoman Roach mentioned the Mediterranean villas, and those are R3. Do we have any idea of what their density is per acre?
No, Councilman, I'm sorry, I do not. It would simply be a guess at this point for me.
Okay. Yeah. And again, I recognize this may be cart before the horse, worrying about the impacts before they're fully explored through the engineering and the further on processes. So I'm going to express that concern that this may be too much to house on that particular area.
Okay, well, with that, thank you, Councilmember Serrano. With that, there's a motion, or I would entertain a motion if we're ready, if there's no further comments or questions.
Okay, since there's no comments, I move to adopt ordinance number 4543, rezoning lots 12, 13, and 14 of bidding site plan 2002-005 from C1 to R4 and further authorize publication by summary only.
Thank you.
This is Councilmember Roach, and I'll second.
Okay, so there's been a motion to adopt ordinance number 4543, seconded by Councilwoman Roach. So all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
Nay, Serrano.
Okay, Mr. Serrano opposes the motion. So with that, the motion passes. So thank you for that, council. And, you know, this just brings up another topic, this the traffic impact analysis. It's just interesting. Bigger developers pretty much know that would be a part of the process is to comply with the traffic impact analysis. But I know that there's a lot of small businesses who don't take that into consideration when they want to start one. And I would highly advise, you know, that's something that they're just not aware of, and that they would get informed prior to, you know, get informed prior to actually going further on their business, so that they don't get swiped with a traffic impact analysis. So just a comment there. So next we'll go to the next ordinance, which is similar to this one, LFRE Fielding Road 92 rezone, C1 to R4. Mr. White, do you want to elaborate on this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, very nearby the last request, although the site is substantially smaller, it's a little bit less than 2 acres. Again, it's on the east side of Road 92 north of Sandifer. Again, the hearing examiner conducted a public hearing on this in July on the 14th. The examiner has forwarded a recommendation to council. No written appeal has been received, and so staff would recommend that council follow the hearing examiner's recommendation to rezone this site from C1 to R4.
Thank you, Director White. So with that, any questions from council to staff?
My only question, Your Honor, or Mr. Mayor, would be if we could just ask if any other council members have had contact, since it's closely related to the other matter, if we could just find out if anybody's had any other contact related to this.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Yeah, once again, as Mr. Ferguson indicated, is there any council members that have had contact with anybody on this particular topic? And I don't know, Councilmember Serrano, if this was tied in with the other one, but I guess this is the opportunity to let us know if there's been any contact on this issue. Could you please just go ahead and speak up and say whether or not you've had any?
I mean, I'll just simply say that the conversation I had was pretty generic, a statement that he was concerned about growth. So I don't think there's a way to decouple the two. Nonetheless, I believe it doesn't impair my judgment or my inability to remain impartial on my decision. Like I said, I'm open if council members or our legal counsel has concerns. I'm happy to sit it out.
So,
No, those comments don't sound like they would be related to ex parte contact of this applicant.
okay. How about the other council members? You want to go ahead for the record?
This is Mayor Pro Tem Barajas. I have not had any contact in regards to this topic.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
This is Councilmember Roach, and I have had no contact with the applicant.
Thank you, Councilmember Roach.
This is Councilman Milne. I've had no contact with this applicant as well.
Thank you, Councilmember Milne. Did we miss anybody? We get everybody?
And this is Councilmember
Mr.
Maloney.
Maloney.
I have not had any contact about this particular site, just the general concerns I've heard as I disclosed in the previous matter. Thank you.
Thank you. How could I forget you, Mr. Maloney? Now, anybody from the audience, does anybody have any issues with being fair and impartial from the council? Okay. If not, and there's no further questions from the audience or council, I would entertain a motion.
Absolutely, Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance number 4544, rezoning lot 22 Coles Estates in the northwest quarter of Section 8, Township 9 North, Range 29 East, Willamette Meridian, Pasco, Franklin County, Washington, from C1 to R4, and further authorize publication by summary only.
Right?
This is Councilmember Roach, and I will second it.
Okay, so there's been a motion to adopt ordinance number 4544 by Mayor Pro Tem Barajas and seconded by Councilwoman Roach. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Nay.